You're watching Morning at NTV. I'm Arnold Segawa. It's exactly 23 minutes past 8 a.m. Let's move on to some other news with more particular emphasis on the water situation. We got reports that there was a shutdown, some intermittence here and there when it came to the supply of water to many parts of the central part of the country, or should I even just stick it to Kampala? To help us understand this particular conversation and what is being done to make sure that there is a resumption. We have the General Manager for Uganda Water and Sewage Corporation. That's Mahmoud Lutaya. Mahmoud, thanks for making time to speak to us. Thank you. Just the particular shutdown in Gaba over the weekend, what's the status of the water supply as it stands now?
Yes, good morning all the viewers. We had, there was a plant maintenance activity by Umeme. So we have a substation in Gaba that that enables us to run our plant in Gaba. So on Sunday, there was a planned preventive maintenance program by Umeme, which we communicated to all our customers. It was inevitable. It had to be done. So it lasted around 10 hours, started from morning up to around 5. And when you have such a shutdown, definitely it meant that during that time we're not producing. So as we had communicated to our customers. So and at 5, the maintenance activities were completed. Actually, even us, we used the same opportunity to carry out our own maintenance activities. So it was completed as planned, but for the system to recover to full operation takes some bit of time. Remember, during that time, people were still consuming, but were not producing. So basically, the whole network dried up. So once the plant maintenance was completed, we started production.
I think what many people might not understand, I'm not an engineer myself, is the fact that for the plant to work and pump water and there's a purification process, all of this actually does run on electricity.
Yes, exactly.
Now, when there's an interruption at Umeme, towards your supply, that definitely also hampers your ability to, it's literally production, though many of us just see water as water, but it's actually production.
So it meant during that time, for 10 hours, we're not producing any water on Sunday because of that activity. So once that activity was complete, then we started production.
Which parts were the most hit?
Basically, when we're not producing, the whole city basically didn't have water. That is towards around evening. When we start production, this particular incident has mainly affected the areas in the outskirts of the city, parts of Mukono, Seta, you have Namugongo, Chaliwajala, Gayaza area, Chanja, even parts of Nasana and Wakiso. So most of those places are the ones that have been badly affected.
The timing is definitely terrible because it comes at a time when, you know, COVID-19, the best practices, should I say, and all the protocols that have been put forward by the Ministry of Health, you know, washing your hands, not just washing your hands, but washing your hands for, what, over 40 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. Did you give prior notice for such a matter, or did it fall on your lap so quick from Umeme that, hey, we need to shut down?
No. It was planned, and we communicated to the customers, the period. I think maybe what was kind of a challenge for some, because when we communicated that it's going to be for 10 hours, most people thought that immediately after the maintenance is done, everyone will start receiving water. And usually that's not the case, especially if you're in the outskirts of the city, because it takes us time for the system to stabilize. And that's what we've been doing for the last 3 days. And the good news is that the system is stabilizing, and the people who are not getting water have started getting water.
There's been floods reported in the greater part of Gaba, I think also Bunga. Give me a sense of, I'm just thinking out loud here, if the water level rises in the Lake Victoria, is this a good thing for national water?
Yes, it is a good thing, and sometimes it poses a challenge. But for this particular case, at least it didn't affect our operation significantly. We're able to respond very fast and able to avoid any catastrophe that could have arose from the increase in levels. And as of now, our system is very safe, and that's why we've been able to produce water for all this time.
Let's talk revenue, because the presidential directive was quite clear. You're not about to disconnect anyone during this particular time, well, the lockdowns and the pandemic, which does require one to wash their hands quite a number of times in the course of the day. How are you surviving if you cannot disconnect people? You have to distribute as much water as you can to keep Ugandans safe. How hard have you hit on your bottom line? Have you been hit on your bottom line?
Definitely we've been hit on our bottom line. It has been a very challenging period. But as a corporation, our focus and priority during this time was to make sure that people get water. And it has been our focus. And we want to thank the customers for the support they've given us. What we've tried to do, as the president directed, we haven't been disconnecting people during this time. And up to now, we're not disconnecting anyone for non-payment. Actually, what we tried to do was to make sure that those who are disconnected, before even COVID, we've been encouraging them to come back to supply so that we reconnect them. So we've been a bit more engaging the customers and making them appreciate that for us to be able to provide the service, we still need them to pay. So those that have been able to pay, we've been requesting them to clear the bills, and we want to thank all our customers that have responded, that have enabled us to operate during this period. So it's been a very challenging period, and it's still a challenging period, but the confidence and the good news for the public is that National Water is a very strong organization.
Mahmoud, do you have a timeline for when you might start disconnecting people again? Because this, for me, seems like a honeymoon. You know, the pandemic is here, there's a lockdown, we have to wash our hands, and National Water says, you know what, we're giving you a grace period. You know, do we have a timeline for when all the accrued dues might have to be paid?
No, we can't say we're going to start disconnecting next month, you know, because no one knows when this situation is going to end. But what we can assure our customers right now, we're not disconnecting anyone for non-payment. But also what we've been encouraging and requesting them to do is to make payment. Those that can should make sure that they clear their bills, because the bill is what? Is accumulating. You know, and once that period comes, then they will have to enter into an agreement and see how they can clear the bills.
Mahmoud, this is quite interesting. I think your tagline is "Water is life" as National Water. Yes, water is life. I remember
water
that.
Is life.
I've seen it on one of the bills. And this has me thinking, if you're surviving without people actually paying their dues, and National Water is doing such a great job, who's to say that you cannot half or even cut whatever dues per unit that you are charging Ugandans as it stands right now? Because you're doing such a great job and you're not charging us anything. Who's to say that whatever you're charging Ugandans right now, after the pandemic, you could cut it by 3/4, because you're doing a stellar job right now when we're not paying you anything?
Actually, what is happening, like what has happened, I think in most places, we have also had to defer a number of commitments during this period. So, that
it's not waiving, it's
no,
deferring.
it's not. Yeah, we deferred a number of commitments that we have to clear. And like I said, what we've tried to focus on a lot is on making sure that people get water. So we had a number of development projects that right now, some of them are being deferred until a time when we are able to fully recover. So still, without the customers making their contribution and paying, it's very hard for National Water to sustain the operation. But in this current situation, we really understand that it's not easy, and it's not, some people are not able to pay. That's why we haven't been disconnected. But we've been encouraging and requesting those that can pay should be able to clear their bills.
Wow, great answers, Mahmoud. No wonder you've got the top job. Finally, I want to ask you about the Ghana example. Everyone across the continent was going on about Ghana at a time where we need to wash our hands. COVID-19 is here. Ghana wakes up. The equivalent of National Water says, you know what, water is going to be free for this particular time. It's not particularly a deferment, but water is free at the time. Is this something that was discussed, maybe pondered at the National Water level, or not?
I think it's very hard to do comparison.
Because the Ugandan example is disconnecting is stopping. No more disconnections.
No more disconnection. You continue providing the service. I may not have all the details about the Ghana case, but also you find that if you dig deeper, you realize the context and the situation, even the way the utility operates, could be totally different.
Right.
And that's why sometimes it's not very wise to say it's happening this way in this country. I'm sure even in Ghana there are so many things they could be looking at how we're doing them in Uganda, and they could be urging their government to borrow relief from Uganda. But I think for me what I can say is as a corporation, I think we've responded well during this period. The idea of not disconnecting people has been very good. Actually, the positive picked away from this situation is that there are people who have managed to pay without disconnection. It shows you that you don't have to be disconnected to pay for water, because water is such an essential service that we should all value so highly and prioritize even when it comes to payment. And the price itself is not high. It's actually, water is very affordable.
And you, of course, made the payments very possible with doing that on mobile money and your bank account, and making everything quite easy. That was Mahmoud Lutaya. He's the general manager for National Water and the Sewerage Corporation, just walking us through, well, water at a time of COVID-19, among other things. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back with more Morning at NTV right after this.